Hello and welcome to Gardening Australia. We are well and truly back into the swing of things. We've got gardening stories coming thick and fast. I hope you're comfortable because here's what's coming up.
How safe is your soil? Well, I'm meeting some scientists who are running a program to map soil contamination, and I'm going to learn what gardeners need to do about it.
In the veggie patch, the tail end of the summer crops means it's time to transition to the autumn crops. I'll be getting an early start to make sure my patch remains productive.
I'm diving into the world of Haworthias, a cute and collectible bunch. And one thing's for sure, there's no shortage of variety.
And we meet someone who's found her happy place among a jungle of indoor plants. Building a garden with a loved one could be a way to strain a relationship. But today I'm visiting a couple who've come up with a unique partnership in their garden. I'm in the Blue Mountains west of Sydney, visiting the home of Norma and Andrew to have a look around their stunning garden, Tarraleah. Hello, Norma.
Hello, Costa. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too,
Costa.
Andrew.
Great to have you here.
Wow, here.
That's
What
a
an
view,
incredible
isn't
view.
It's very nice.
How big is the block?
It's about 3/4 of an acre, most of which is steep slope. We still have a bit of bush down the bottom that we haven't got to yet.
The plants do really well. The orchard does really well. A gardener's paradise.
The name Tarraleah comes from a power station in Tasmania that Andrew's father worked on in the 1950s. When Norma and Andrew moved here 13 years ago, the block was bare bush, so they started planting straight away. Now, as gardeners, do you share the same outlook and focus?
Not really. Andrew's more the... He's more the orchard, the fruit trees, the productive side and the chooks, and I do the flowers, the bushes and the pretty things.
So would you say it's the great divide of Hazelbrook, or is it the east-west of Berlin here? How's it work?
Oh, we're fairly good with each other. He actually built the paths for me, all the steps up through my side, and I help weed every so often on his side.
It's an interesting divide because it's not really like the Berlin Wall or anything. We do infiltrate it occasionally, and now there's actually some fuchsias on my side.
And it's good because I can do what I like on my side. I don't have to go and
Talk about it.
and Andrew can do what he likes on his side, and we're happy.
Well, it's clear the garden's in two halves, so scissors, paper, rock. Norma, let's go to your half first, and Andrew will catch you a bit later.
Okay.
We'll go this way, Costa.
Thanks, Norma.
Mind your step. We go down here.
Oh, I like this ramp,
Yeah.
natural ramp.
It's great, isn't it?
Oh,
That's what's lovely, is the natural rock that we've
rock
got.
here is stunning. You've planted in every nook and cranny, even on the stone here.
I do, and succulents are great for that. You don't have to wait for it to take or anything. You pop it in and off it takes.
Yeah, and they get their water in the little
that's right.
drainage
Just got to
lines
do a bit
here.
of weeding
Yeah, a
while
little
we
bit
do.
of weeding. That's
sitting.
all right. I can't sort of talk to you without
No, that's right.
weeding.
Man after my own heart.
I kind of want to go that way.
Go that way, yeah? We can go that way. Just here, round that corner, that's where I broke my ankle. So that's when Andrew came and built some steps for me, which was lovely.
So when you stand here in the middle of what you've created, what do you love about it?
I just love all the different shrubs and plants I've got mixed in with the succulents and mixed in with the roses and the dahlias and the fuchsias. And I've still got room for so many more things.
Banksias, grevilleas, I mean, there's no discrimination. It's just...
I've got natives in as well, so they all blend in really well together.
What are some of the tips that you've learnt on this steep sloping block with little soil?
This doesn't really get fed with anything. It's too big an area, so it just relies on the mulch, which I do yearly, and the rain, or our watering system. And I've got all the rock that I find when I did the garden. I do little terracing throughout, so because everything just tends to wash down. And everything's got a bit of a lean on it because we are downhill on a slope. So all the trees are leaning.
What was that?
Yeah, that way. No, it's actually backwards.
Oh, yeah.
That way.
Norma estimates she has around 250 fuchsia plants in the garden, including over 100 different varieties.
So
Wow.
they're beautiful, aren't they?
They really are. I can see why you love them so much. You've just got so many versions
Yep,
and
they're
varieties. So this is the Great Wall.
It is the Great Wall. It's shut.
Can we go through? Do I need a passport?
Oh, okay.
Is it a-
It's not electric.
It's electric. Jeez. This
I'll open it and see how we go. Oh, there he is.
Here.
Who goes here?
What's the purpose of the fence here? How come it's
The purpose of the fence, apart from dividing the two halves, is actually to help provide bird protection for the orchard.
I'm keen to get into the productive zone and see what you've got.
See you later, Costa.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
You know, I'll come through this way.
Andrew's orchard is teeming with about 30 different kinds of fruit. There's a lot of volume here. What do you do with it all?
I make jam out of all the fruit that's grown here and I sell them. And a proportion of that money goes to a group in Nepal that look after some children. I love the feeling of growing and picking and making the jam. People know where it's grown and they know who's made it and they can experience a bit more than just buying a jar of jam. And I've had people come here on open gardens and just sat down and cried because they were really moved by just how productive it felt and how nice it felt.
What a beautiful connection. What have you learnt along the way when it comes to growing your berries?
Lots of berries have really specific microclimate requirements. We grow some blueberries and we tried them in 5 or 6 different spots until now they're in a spot where they're producing.
So you get so much out of it on a real variety of levels.
Yeah, a lot of this initial work I did because I was having a bit of a burnout experience, and the physical and growing nature of what I was doing was a real help through that situation. That's probably why it got so big so quick, because I had 2 or 3 years where I was just putting all my energy into it, and it was good therapy.
Got more figs here. So what's this?
This is what we call the rotunda. It's an ideal place for growing lots of fuchsias.
Everywhere you look, there's just so many flowers. It's a really special little place.
It is. Makes you happy.
And you can look at each one because they're all different and just a happy spot. Why don't we go and make some jam?
Damn, let's
Yeah?
make jam, definitely. I'd love to do that.
Well, let's do
I'm
it.
not a jam man when it comes to the making, so I need to learn. So this is where it's all taking place. Where did you begin in the jam making process?
Pick the fruit, put it in the saucepan, a couple of kilos of fruit in there, and you put about the same amount of sugar in. Bit of lemon juice. Takes about 25 minutes to come to the boil, and then you cook it for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes, and it comes to this stage, ready to put into the jars. It's a very easy jam to make, actually.
Norma, here's some beautiful pikelets that you prepared earlier.
I did. With Andrew's jam.
Here we go, this looks nice. That's the best way. Here goes. Yum. More cream in your beard than mine.
That's why I've got a white beard.
So there you have it, a garden in 2 halves, which Norma and Andrew have made work in perfect harmony. Who said you can't have it all in the garden?
Why are the leaves on my banana turning yellow and brown around the edges? Well, bananas are fast-growing plants, and the reason this one looks good is because I regularly remove the leaves. And because they may have fungal diseases on the leaves, I never mulch the bananas with banana leaf. I move it elsewhere in the garden. There's another reason why they may be going yellow, and that could be a need for calcium and magnesium that is readily applied by a handful of dolomite per stem. Generally have 3 stems per plant, so 3 handfuls will deal with it. That will energise the plants and boost their resistance to disease. And that should give you nice green leaves.
I bet you that you know a lot of people who've got a driveway and then a very narrow garden space between the fence. And people often put in plants that just hang right over the driveway. Well, what about a really lovely upright plant? And this one, the Camellia avalanche, will do the trick. It grows eventually about 5 metres high, but it's a slow-growing one, so you'll get it up to about 3 metres in a number of years. And it's got masses of these wonderful white flowers, flowers from autumn and into winter, and it's just a very elegant, slender, upright hedging plant.
Are seeds organic? While you can control your own garden practices at home, many commercial seeds will be treated with various pesticides and fungicides. If growing truly organic crops is important to you, you can source seed that is produced by certified organic farmers that will be marked on their seed packets. A good tip is to look for seed locally, as seed produced in your climate is much more likely to thrive in your garden. And once you've grown it successfully, you can then start to save your own.
Us gardeners love growing food, but in cities and urban areas, it can come with risks. Millie's here with a story about how we can use the latest science to manage those risks and make informed decisions. Oh yeah, look at this.
There's no doubt that so many of us love growing food. It's one of the key reasons that we garden. But one of the big questions that we all ask is, how safe is my soil? And how do I find out? Professor Mark Taylor and Hannah Elliott are from Victoria's Environment Protection Authority, which is running the Garden Safe program to help gardeners understand the state of their soil. Tell me, Mark, what is it that people will find in their soil?
Well, organic matter and worms, but also trace elements. And remember the periodic table from high school? We focus on those elements that are associated with industrial pollution that are commonly found in cities. Arsenic, copper, cadmium, zinc, lead, manganese, for example. And we're concerned because there are potentially neurotoxic risks. They can get into the soil, they then can get into the food, the soil can get inside people's homes. In the last 200 years or so, we've done a really good job in certain parts of the environment of contaminating them. So we just need to be cognizant that if we want to use the gardens for food production, let's find out what's there. The main risk that we find is lead, particularly in the older parts of the city. If you live in an old home closer to the city centre, which is made of timber and painted, it's more likely than not that that home will be subject to more contaminated soil than a newer home and the fringes.
So that's about lead paint, which was used on houses.
And in vehicles, so...
Right, leaded fuel.
Leaded petrol, which we had for 7 decades.
So how does it get in the soil?
Well, it comes out the tailpipe. Those emissions, they become depositions because they're particles. They fall out, they land on the soil, and it accumulates over time.
So it won't go anywhere?
No, unless you dig it up and take it to an appropriate waste facility.
Right. And why is lead so dangerous?
Well, lead is a classic neurotoxin, and what that does, it interferes with people's neurological development, and exposures over lifetime associated with poorer outcomes, socioeconomic outcomes, and early onset of dementia. Children are most impacted because their neurological and skeletal systems are developing, so that's the time of life when we try to minimise exposure, and that's why we need to be cognizant of what's in the garden.
Gosh, it's such an abundant front garden.
Isn't this a beautiful mulberry tree?
It's gorgeous. And so a garden like this, you know, is it worth testing?
Absolutely. You never know what was going on in your yard before you lived there. So
Right.
everything's worth taking a look at, get a bit of a pulse check of what's going on. So this will take an x-ray of your soil and tell us a bit about what's going on in there. So you can see potassium and phosphorus at the top. So they're beneficial for human and plant health. So we'd expect to see them in your soil. Lead's coming up at 9, which is fairly low. So that's in milligrams per kilograms of soil. Now the limit's at 300. So 9's pretty good. We'd say carry on gardening.
That is such an amazing result, and so quickly. But obviously not everyone can get the machine delivered to the house. How do people get their soil tested with you?
Send it to us and we'll do it for you.
So can you show me how to get a sample?
Yeah, let's go collect some soil. So if there's a certain area of your backyard or front yard that you're interacting with a lot or your kids are playing in and you're interested in that, then let's sample that and we can tell you what's going on in there. 15 by 15 centimetre square is what we recommend, and then taking the top 2 centimetres, so the soil that you're really interacting with, that top layer.
How much am I after?
More, we say a tennis ball, about half a cup.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Seal it up, send your 3 samples in to us, and we'll screen them and send you a report back for free.
Victoria's Garden Safe program gives people a report on any pollutants in their soil and a free soil analysis that includes nutrient levels and physical properties like amounts of sand and clay.
Hi, Tess. So this is where the action happens, Millie. These are soil samples that have come in from all over Victoria.
Gardeners in other states can pay a small donation to use the Veggie Safe soil testing program at Macquarie University.
So we'll grab this one. This one's from Inner Melbourne. Just a small sample of the soil. So it's about 2 teaspoons that we actually take. So Millie, let's take a look at the results that have just come through. That lead's really high.
Oh, wow, that is high. So that's over 1,000 milligrams per kilogram of soil.
Correct. So that's quite high. The limit's 300, and that's about over 3 times the limit of what we'd say is safe.
I really feel for that gardener. Like, if I got that result, I think my heart would break a bit. You wouldn't recommend gardening in it?
We wouldn't. We'd recommend taking steps to reduce your exposure to that soil.
The information is then de-identified and added to the Map My Environment website.
So if we zoom in on Melbourne, you can see the spikes there, where you can see there's higher lead concentrations in those inner north and west suburbs.
So where the industrial activity was, that's where you're going to find
lots
more
of
contamination.
Lots of legacy contamination. Yeah.
Wow, so everyone can contribute to this?
Absolutely, it's a great example of citizen science and getting Victorians to really contribute to the scientific efforts of the EPA.
As well as testing your soil for free, the program also gives Victorians clear information about practical steps they can take to reduce the risks posed by contaminated soil. Mark, this is a great example of one of the best solutions.
Raised bed, fresh soil, mulch on the top. It's perfect. It stops dust being produced.
Right.
It's obviously producing great food.
And so what are other things you can do to minimise your risk?
Well, the most obvious one is when you get the veggies from the garden, you make sure you wash it properly, you wash your hands, and when you go in the house, you take your shoes off. You just reduce that risk of exposure from the soil, and it's just good basic hygiene, right? It's nothing complicated.
Gardeners are also advised to avoid planting vegetables near the drip line or eaves of older houses, and to mulch open soil to reduce the dust. If you've got chooks, make sure they're nesting and scratching in a deep bed of clean litter. And if you've got kids, create a safe play area, such as a sandpit with clean sand. There's such a variety of productive plants in this garden. Do different things take up those elements in different ways?
Yes, they do. And the plants that we should be most concerned about are the leafy greens, such as the spinaches we can see here. These are well known to be susceptible to the uptake of lead, whereas other plants, such as your fruit trees, for example, are not affected in the same way. So growing it in a raised bed with mulch to limit the production of dust is perfect.
So they're big issues and they worry us, but we don't need to panic. We can keep gardening.
We can carry on gardening and by taking sensible, simple actions to mitigate that risk. My view is every little bit counts. Little things matter. So the cumulative benefit of everybody taking pragmatic and sensible action so that they can maximise the use of their garden, there's huge benefits for the population.
A question every gardener should be asking is, how do I attract pollinators into my food garden? Well, the best way to do this is to have 2 different types of flower blooming in your garden all year round. The first type is this, Cosmos. It's a flat-shaped flower and it's pollen-rich. This plant is Cosmos caudatus, otherwise known as king salad, and it's an edible medicinal herb. The other type of flower that you need is like this. Brassicas, mustard, Asian greens and basil have small cup-shaped flowers which are full of nectar. Now, why 2 different types of flower? Well, the flat pollen-rich flowers provide protein and the small cup-shaped flowers provide nectar, which is sugar-rich. And these are ideal foods for a wide range of pollinators. The small cup-shaped flowers are really important for the majority of Australian bees because they have co-evolved along the Myrtaceae, the myrtle family, and they produce small cup-shaped flowers. They've got short tongues or proboscises, so you're working with nature. Now, by having these plants growing in your garden, you can dispense with growing ornamentals to bring pollinators. And that way, you've got a regular supply of pollinators, you'll get seed and abundant crops, and you can make full use of all the space you have, even in a small garden.
A lot of veggie growing is anticipating what's to come, being one step ahead so you're not caught short. Master strategist Josh is already making his next move in the veggie patch, and he's letting us in on the plan.
Summer is a super productive time in the veggie garden. And even as we slide into autumn, I've still got leftover summer favourites, including tomatoes, basil, onions and watermelon. The transition between seasons at this time of year can be tricky. Cooler weather is undoubtedly on the way, but there are still productive summer crops in the ground and warm days are still common. I call this the in-between period, and I'm going to share a couple of simple ideas to make the most of it. Let's start with these tomato tomatoes, which have been super productive for months. We've feasted on them, we've made sauce out of the surplus. They're still going okay and will keep cropping for a few more weeks, so I'm going to leave them in there. In the next bed on these stakes, I had grossless tomatoes. Now, they finished up a few weeks ago. I've already pulled out the plants and composted them, and now I'm going to plant beans. It's a bit too early for me to plant winter legumes like peas and broad beans. So I'm putting in a late crop of warm season beans, starting with climbing beans on the poles. There's no preparation here, just pull back the mulch and sow. Alongside, I'm making furrows and planting bush beans, which are more compact and don't need a trellis. It's a bit unconventional to grow these beans this late, but they're quick growing, will fix nitrogen in the soil and improve it for the next crop. It costs me nothing other than some leftover seed, and if we have a warm autumn, I should get a decent crop. I've got some spare real estate in the next bed along, and in there I'm going to plant celery and rainbow chard, which are repeat cropping plants, and they'll produce well over the next few months. These are hungry plants, so I'll need to build up the soil using homemade compost, aged chicken manure and a sprinkle of blood and bone. Then work it all in with a fork. I've spaced these chard and celery seedlings about 40 centimetres apart, and regular picking of the stems will stop them crowding. few hot days could knock these young seedlings over, so I have these shade tunnels on hand to provide some shelter until they're established. They're really easy to make from some fencing wire and 50% shade cloth, meaning enough sunlight and air gets through for the seedlings to thrive. There's a couple of simple hacks to help you straddle the seasons. The main thing is be creative to keep your patch productive. The space is too precious not to.
If there's one plant you can rely upon to create a stunning display from mid-spring to early summer, it's Phlomis, known as the Jerusalem sage. Now, it's not actually a true sage, but it is in the sage family. It's a Mediterranean climate plant and it's perfectly suited to South Australian gardens. Phlomis gets its name from the Greek for flame. Phlomis are frost and drought hardy and like plenty of room to express themselves, so give them a large bed with good drainage and plenty of sunshine. This Phlomis was covered in flowers. You can see it produces long, slender spikes which have whorls up the spike, and they start flowering at the bottom and work their way up, which gives you an extended flowering period. Now, at the end of flowering, you simply come in and remove the spent flower spike. Usually when we deadhead a plant, we cut back the old flower spike to just above a set of nodes. But in this case, I can see there's lovely new growth lower down, and if I prune it further down, I'll get a more compact plant. It may have looked daunting at the beginning with all the dead flower heads, but once you get going, it's not that hard. Just use your secateurs and methodically work your way around the plant. I find that when I'm pruning Phlomis, I often end up sneezing because of the dust on the leaves, so be aware if you're a bit sensitive. I've finished the basic pruning. I could actually take it back harder than this if I wanted to, because there's growth lower down, but I'm happy with this. A little bit of effort now and your Phlomis will look so much better and reward you with a stunning display of blooms in spring.
Still to come on Gardening Australia, Clarence uncovers a project turning back the tide. Hannah shows us the shape of things to come.
Trees come in all different shapes and forms, even within the same species and the same garden.
And we meet a horticulturist whose garden path led her indoors. Who doesn't love succulents? They're cute, colourful, collectible. I mean, they're really quite irresistible. Tammy's looking at a particular group of easy-to-grow succulents that I reckon you're going to want to add to your collection.
These little cuties are Haworthias, part of a group of succulents that you can easily grow at home. You'll love exploring them as they come in such a variety of colours, shapes, forms and patterns. Haworthias don't grow very big, and due to their small size, make them quite collectible. Many of them look like tougher miniature aloes, with their characteristic tightly packed rosette of leaves. They're versatile and can often be grown both indoors in bright light as well as outdoors in the garden. People grow them for their patterned leaves and interesting colours. No two plants are exactly alike. Haworthia come from the southern region of Africa, so they are adapted to hot, dry environments. Their leaf stomata only open at night, which reduces water loss. This makes them very drought tolerant, but slow growing. What we call Haworthias are actually 3 different genera, including true Haworthia, Haworthiopsis, and Chulista. These different genera names are just a botanical classification based on their lineage and characteristics, but they all have similar care requirements and are similar enough horticulturally to be thought of colloquially as the same group. True Haworthia form a stemless rosette. unlike the stemmed rosette of the other genera. They also have distinctive flowers. Haworthia flowers form on tall spikes. They're white, tubular, and often striped. Haworthia come in a huge variety of forms, some with pointed leaves, while others, like this Haworthia truncata, also known as horse's teeth, have these striking cross-sectional leaves that, well, look like large teeth. You're going to love this. One of the most interesting physical characteristics of some Haworthia, like this Haworthia cooperi, are these clear sections on the leaves. They look a bit like stained glass windows. This is actually called fenestration. The second, Haworthiopsis, and these are characterised by their coalescent rosette, which means the rosette forms along an elongated stem, and the pups or the babies spring up tightly from the base of the mother plant. Now the third one, Chulista. They look so similar, you'd think that they were the same plant, but the difference is in the genetics. Haworthia are easy to grow. They need enough light for the colours to look their best, especially if there is any fenestration on the leaves. Grow them in a free-draining cactus mix, ideally in an unglazed terracotta pot with a saucer underneath to aid moisture retention. Bring them inside and put them on a brightly lit windowsill, or grow them under cover or on a balcony. Water regularly when actively growing, and they can benefit from a slow-release fertiliser at the beginning of the growing season. Now, if you've neglected your plant, it might take on this sunken appearance. Specialised roots, known as contractile roots, pull the plant underground when it's stressed. But don't worry, once conditions improve, it will pop right back up. Whether Haworthias are kept inside or outside, you'll be amazed at the sheer variety of colours and patterns. They're truly magical and worthwhile adding to your collection.
Lots of people like to take cuttings from their gardens, and now, late summer and into early autumn, is a perfect time to take cuttings that are called semi-hardwood or semi-ripe cuttings. This is a camellia, and you can take cuttings from camellias right now, or even gardenias and daphnes. There's different patterns of growth. At the end of the stem of plants, that's the tip, obviously, the end of the branch. Down further, the branches had time over the seasons to get a little bit more mature. It feels harder between your fingers. And then down further, it's really quite hardwood. That's not what I want. I want the semi-hardwood. To take a cutting, you can use your fingers just to pull them neatly off, or use your secateurs to make a nice clean cut. With this camellia cutting, I need to just trim off that little bit of heel. That's a little bit of the old wood, which is a good thing to have, but just to make it a bit neater, just use your secateurs and trim it off like that. Trim off any of the bottom leaves because they're going to go underneath the propagating material, and left with two. Using a little bit of the rooting hormone powder, just dip the end into it and then tap off the excess, and with a dipper, make a hole in your propagating medium and just slide the cutting in and then press around so it's very stable. That's quite important. And that cutting, you don't have to use bottom heat or anything like that. This time of the year should grow roots in about 4 to 5 weeks. You're not doing any damage by removing some of the foliage or by cutting it in half. You can make these cuttings about 15 centimetres long, 10 centimetres is fine, but if you haven't got enough material, just tiny ones, even 5 or 6 centimetres long is fine. Into the rooting hormone powder, and there we go. You will see the little roots coming out the bottom, and that tells you it's time to move them on. As with any cuttings, it's important to keep them moist, and a little misting spray does it well. Sometimes you can find that if you use a great big watering can, it can dislodge the cuttings. But this gives enough moisture and plenty of humidity around the plants for them to get going. A plastic bag or a little salad bowl top works well also. Just nestle it over the top of the cuttings. That's working as a little mini hothouse. That will work like a treat. And it's a terrific time to get out in the garden in autumn to take cuttings just like that.
So many of us love living by the ocean, but as our coastal cities grow, we need to get smarter about how we make space for the natural world around us, and that includes the ocean. Here's Clarence with more.
This area of coastline on the Georges River, just south of Botany Bay, also known as Camay, was once fortified against the tides with a concrete seawall. Then along came a man with a good idea.
A lot of foreshores, the habitat's been lost, but the idea of this one is through the planting of salt marsh and also the reintroduction of rock pools. We've now got ability for the tide to move in these zones and reintroduce habitat that's been lost previously.
Tom Heath is a marine biologist by training, yet this shoreline project for Georges River Council incorporates a whole lot more. Looking at it, it's really quite seamless, from the water to the intertidal to the salt marsh.
Well, that's how a natural intertidal zone would be, that natural transition from one to the other. So we've got that movement from the rock intertidal and the rock pools directly into our salt marsh, which is our endangered ecological community, which has really been lost around this area, and then straight into our riparian vegetation, which is those dune species that have been lost as well.
I guess the salt marsh area, that would have all been mud flats at one point in time?
Yeah, salt marsh is a pretty funny community in terms of if it'll succeed or not. So we've been really fortunate to have the success rate of samphire, sea blight and marine cooch as three of the species that are in this area.
I really like the flow from the salt marsh into the riparian zones, where you see a lot of the juncus and a few other species in there.
Yeah, the riparian zone is one of those landscaping features that's also been lost, but really has community benefit and value. So the reintroduction of the pigface, as well as your coastal rosemary and your juncus species, as those zones to protect the foreshore, but to also provide some amenity to the community. This is one of our rock intertidal foreshore zones. These rock pools here flood on both high tide events. The rock pools, like any natural foreshore, hold water for those species that need that. So there's a lot of juvenile fish that are in these. We get octopus, conjoy, all sorts of different species that you wouldn't necessarily see on a vertical concrete or sandstone seawall.
Tom, I love the way this boardwalk's set up. We're actually on the water and away from this plant zone.
Yeah, the idea of this is that transition from stage 1 to stage 2 of the foreshore project, where the idea was to reintroduce the community back to Cogra Bay, but also that introduction and that visual of the salt marsh, actually seeing and experiencing that sort of zone.
Yeah, and a much softer edge here with the sandstone boulders.
Yeah, so we've tried to transition from those vertical hard seawalls to the traditional riprap, which is a bit more of an eco-friendly design, reintroducing some of those intertidal foreshore habitats that would otherwise have been here. We've just walked over the boardwalk where the community has that ability to look back on the salt marsh. The idea of this zone is that they're actually sitting with it. So this is a bit of an informal seating zone that we've got salt marsh pockets, but we've also below us got the rock pools. So we're reintroducing the community directly to the types of intertidal habitats that we've reintroduced to the site. This is a pretty rugged zone right on the point, so we're buffeted by the wind and the sea spray here. So it's been mainly the focus on those rushes and those hardy species. But interestingly, we've found that we've got some salt marsh pockets starting to pop up in these zones that wasn't planted. So that's a pretty interesting and exciting sign.
Tom, how does a marine biologist come to be redesigning foreshores and project managing such a big job?
It was just more of the focus of thinking about foreshore from a marine perspective rather than an engineering perspective. So it was thinking more about the habitat structure and the ecology rather than just protecting a foreshore and nothing else.
This looks a lot more natural than some of the other sections.
Yeah, this is probably our most innovative and new section in terms of the design for it. So the original foreshore was actually 5 metres into the water now, but this was more focused on the reintroduction of those soft engineered species in the coastal areas. So we've got, this coastal dune that's been planted out, and it's the root system that's holding everything in place rather than it being a hard structure of rock and things like that. So it's reintroducing and enabling the salt marsh to naturally self-seed in the levels where it needs to be, but providing some structure behind for the parkland. All this sand that you see is actually naturally accreted, none of it was added. So it just shows that the coastal processes can occur when you allow them to do their thing.
The way that this is set up, it's almost like recreating a dune environment.
Yeah, it's the focus on the root system of the tree species and then the shrubs, keeping that dune intact. So we've got, casuarina, Banksy and acacia species, which are those larger trees and shrubs. And then we've got some of our dune lambandras, salt cooch, and then we've also got tetragonia and things like that, which is that undercover that's holding that intact as well.
Naturalising this part of the foreshore also included a stormwater drain that had been a concrete channel.
It happens a lot in these sort of parkland areas, the removal of natural creekline systems. So we've got a stormwater drain we've naturalised to emulate the meandering of a natural creekline in this area. So it opens up into a broader delta mouth, which you'd see in these sort of muddy environments rather than it being a hard concrete channel. So that's integrating into the dune behind us and the planting associated with it. It's really about reintroducing habitat to a zone that had significantly lost what it had prior to the construction of vertical seawalls. So we're pretty proud of this project and the other ones that we're looking to do similar to this.
Why do some tree species have variable shapes? Trees come in all different shapes and forms, even within the same species and the same garden. Some will grow tall and straight, while others will spread out or form wonky shapes. The difference can be due to a range of factors. Natural form. Some species are naturally variable in form, just like you don't look like other members of your family. If you need consistency, do some research on the species you want to plant and look for cultivars that are bred to have a particular growing habit. Resource competition. Lots of light and space at the beginning of its life can help a tree grow into its ideal form. But if there's lots of competition and not enough light, then the tree is forced to grow into whatever it can in its own personal, limited space. Soil or wind. Similarly, when roots hit rock or compacted soil, they'll look for another way to spread out. And this can affect the above ground growth. It may even stunt growth if there's nowhere to go. Strong winds might cause a strong lean or more horizontal form than those in more protected sites. Makes you appreciate how resilient and creative trees can be.
Indoor plants have become such a part of our lives, and it's been so inspiring to watch you transform your homes into your own indoor plant oases. Our next story is with a Sydney-sider who's helping others on their journey indoors.
We're a stone's throw from the city, really. Rozelle is just an amazing inner-city village, and it's like you've stepped into a country town. It really is. The colourful locals, there's lots of artists, there's lots of young families, lots of children. It's just such a wonderful, supportive community. I've been blown away by the support. My name's Edwina Nikolic. I'm a horticulturist, I'm a plant biologist, and I constantly study plant morphology. And I now own a plant shop in Rozelle. Everyone that walks into the shop loves the shop, and they love how the shop makes them feel. And I explain it's not the shop, it's the plants.
Hi, Edwina.
Hi.
Here is my beauty from home.
A lot of the people straight away say to me, how do you keep them alive? It's like it's this big enigma. Because these people that call themselves black thumbs are petrified of killing another plant. So I try and demystify it a little bit, take them around and show them the hardier plant and give them strict instructions on what to do. And I've had such success stories. It's like when you've got a newborn parent and they show you baby photos, they show me their plants.
Eddie, do you remember this plant?
You want a plant to suit the person's personality.
Is that the fire sticks?
I think you can solve everything with gardening. I really do. I do. I told you she loves you. So I want her back. Oh, I don't remember a life without plants. My parents both were plant addicts. My mother coming from a farming background, but my dad had a love of bonsais. That fascinated me as a child, so we began making bonsais. I think that, for me, really sparked my journey. My miniature world sparked my journey. Also, when we went grocery shopping with my mum, there was a plant shop, and I'd say to her, I'll help you with the grocery shops if we can just go into that plant shop. As a child, the imagination just started coming out, and I was in a different world for that little bit. I see kids come into my shop too, and they are me when I was that young. They are taken to that magical, faraway land, and I think it's really special. I think my shop is more than just a shop. It's embracing imagination in the next generation, so, and hopefully creating new green people. I was born in Darwin, and we came to Sydney after Cyclone Tracy devastated our family home. It actually destroyed everything. The only thing I really remember was the wind breaking the wall in our house and my dad popping me on the table with the mattress over our head and the water rising. So it was pretty fierce. So yes, nature can be beautiful, but it does quickly slap you just to make you realise we're not in charge, that nature is in charge. My career was chopped up a bit. I've done a lot in the horticulture industry. After I finished my horticultural certificate, unfortunately, within my career, I was diagnosed with cancer 3 times. So I had to stop studies and stop work for periods of time to go on to treat my cancers, which, it's not sad because I'm here. I don't know why I'm crying. So I was diagnosed when I was 25. I had breast cancer. I battled that 3 times. It was tricky, it was a challenge, but I had the time off that I needed to do what I needed. And then I found lots of time to travel the world. And while I traveled the world, that just made the love of plants grow more and more, because I went into the deep forests of Europe, the redwoods in California. I've been to Alaska and I saw the sphagnum moss in real life growing naturally, which to me, I read about them and I studied all these plants, but to physically hold these plants and see these plants in real life was a joy. So I don't think I would have gone down that road had I not had cancer. But I found out 2 months ago that finally the treatment that I had 7 or 8 years ago actually has worked. I am now lump-free, which just makes me feel like I am the luckiest woman on earth. So there was a life change, and I met a wonderful man who entered my life and helped me bear children. So I had the miracle of falling pregnant with him, which was, I say a miracle, because I lived for 15 years childless and thinking that I would never bear children. Because for years I'd cut off the maternal wanting to hold children. I never held any child. The first child I held was my son, and I was terrified. And it wasn't a beautiful moment, it was very awkward. I've got 2 kids now, and they love the shop. My eldest, he's a great coder, and he used to love insects, and he'd help me with the insect identification because he loved entomology. My youngest one, he's hands-on. He loves to pick up the pots, empty the van, come with me plant shopping. My partner comes here. He's great with customers. They all love him. What's not to love? He's a lovable person. Thank you. So it's a big family affair, which is great. Who'd have thought? I'm really happy. I've got to say, out of all my experiences, this simple plant shop has made me the happiest. I really feel content and just relaxed. I'm done. I'm happy. I don't need to move on. I don't need to try new things. I can happily say that I'm one of the few people, I think, that have found what I was meant to do and what I was meant to be. It's a plant shop owner.
Now, I hope you're ready because we've got all the jobs to fuel your gardening efforts for this weekend. Here we go. Here, chook, chook, chook. Here, chook, chook, chook. Here you go. Cool temperate gardeners, it's time to pop in your parsnips. Sowing now allows them to settle in and get cranking before the cooler weather hits. Sow fresh seeds into fluffy soil about 3 centimetres apart. If some of your foliage is looking furry and funky, reach for the full cream milk. 1 part milk into 9 parts water is a fantastic fungus fighter and will make short work of powdery mildew. Add colour to your cottage garden with wallflowers. Plant in a sunny spot where their showy flowers and clove scent can be appreciated from autumn right through to spring. In warm temperate gardens, wisterias are romping away, so it's time to tame them. Prune back young whippy growth and cut side shoots back to within 10 centimetres of the main lateral stem. Prep for autumn plantings is underway, so it's time to turn to your compost. Literally, aerate and turn your heap. The more love you show it now, the better it'll be come planting time. Lift and divide old clumps of daffodils which failed to flower last season. Shake off the loose soil and store in a cool, airy spot like the shed or garage for replanting in April. Subtropical gardeners, if your camellias are producing bucket loads of buds but few flowers, thin them out by twisting off some of the buds, leaving 1 to 2 at the tip and 2 along the stem. If you're a lover of lawn, summer in the subtropics can be tough. To keep your turf tip-top and lawn luscious, mow as high as possible to conserve moisture and prevent weed infestation. With autumn on the doorstep, take time to plan your patch before you plant. Nurseries and public gardens are great places for ideas and inspiration on trees, shrubs and plants perfect for your place. Amaranth is an amazing addition to tropical veggie gardens that can be sown now. The leaves are edible when cooked and are a super spinach substitute. Plus, they're great companion plants. Get a green manure crop going and add life and nutrients to fallow beds before autumn planting. Sow barley, lucerne, peas and beans, cutting and turning into the soil before seed set. It's a very good time to prune your mulberry tree, cutting it right back to around waist height. Mulberries fruit on new wood, so pruning hard now means more fruit that are easier for you to pick next season. Arid gardeners, aphids are active, but spraying with white oil can do more harm than good in the heat. Instead, squash them with your fingers or blast with the hose. While we're talking pests, set up some molasses traps to catch hungry grasshoppers. Add 500 ml of molasses to a bucket of water and pop it in the patch. You'll catch handfuls of hoppers in no time. Native hibiscus is a tough, tidy shrub for a sunny spot. Growing 2 metres by 2 metres, this stunner will reward you with masses of showy purple flowers from spring through autumn. With autumn around the corner, now's the time to get prepping and planning before some serious planting. Let us know what you get up to on the GA socials. Well, that's a wrap for another week, but if you're anything like me, you're already wanting more. So here's what's ripening nicely for next week.
I love cold frames because they help me grow and maintain a steady supply of veggies no matter what the weather. But if you thought they were just for the colder months, well, I'm going to show you how you can also put them to use in summer.
I'm taking a tour with the designer of 3 very different but equally impressive green wall projects in South Brisbane.
Living architecture provides us with a range of technologies that we can use to bring nature into the built environment.
And I'm visiting a garden that belongs to one of the producers on Gardening Australia. In between doing other people's gardens, he has spent time in his own suburban garden and he's transformed it into a native plant haven.